Hello and good morning, or good afternoon, perhaps even good night, depending on which part of the world you are tuning in from. This is Amsterdam Live. My name is Boy. Goedemorgen Schip, goedemorgen Gosse, goedemorgen Koenie. Alexico, hi, good day to you. Here in Amsterdam, it is a Monday morning, and what a difference a day makes. Same location as yesterday. But what a difference a day makes. As I was saying, yesterday, a lot of wind, and now completely calm. Look at the water. It's a mirror. Hardly any wind, which is good in terms of the sound quality of the stream. It's a risk when it comes to the runway usage of Schiphol. Currently, the polderbaan is in use for departures. Good morning, RFS Pilot 7. Good morning, Benjamin Scholz. Guten Morgen aus Deutschland. Willkommen. So at the moment, runway 36 left, where we are standing at the polderbaan, is used for departures, but because there's hardly any wind, Schiphol can also open other runways for departures when it gets busy. And today that's going to be runway 09 most likely. I already saw a few departures on flight radar as I was setting up for the stream this morning. Runway 24 and 36 right are currently in use for landing. I expect runway 36 left, where we are currently standing at, to remain one of the runways in use for departures, although at times it might be a dual runway configuration, and then probably 09 will be the other runway in use for departure. So that means we will probably not see all departing traffic this morning take off in front of us. Still, I think a good chunk of it will come this way. Currently, 2 heavies are taxiing towards the threshold. Sri Lanka boy, good morning. Welcome back. Good to see you guys all again. So, We saw a few small planes depart just now. Now 2 heavies are taxiing towards the threshold, which gives me time to look at flight radar and give you some background information. The first Dreamliner making its way to the threshold is Amsterdam to Bogota, KLM flight 745, and that's a 7879 Dreamliner. That's a 5-year-old plane, was delivered in August 2017. The second Dreamliner is KLM flight 623, and that's the bigger brother. It's a 78710 going to Atlanta, and that's a 3-year-old plane, was delivered in November 2019. Hey Wendy, good morning, welcome back. So there's no wind, as I was saying. You can even see the reflection of the contrail in the water. You can see the sky in the water, in the reflection. So sound quality wise for the stream, that's good. In terms of seeing all the traffic depart from one runway, not so much. Temperature wise, on paper it's 4 degrees centigrade, so that's approximately 38 Fahrenheit. But with the wind so calm and the sun out, it definitely feels warmer. Yesterday, although temperature-wise it was warmer than it is now, I was standing with my gloves on throughout the entire stream. Now, barehanded and still a bit warm, although in this time of year you have to come prepared, and I have also several layers of clothing on. You need to when you're standing still for a few hours out in the open, particularly on this spot where it can get very windy. So you're basically exposed to the wind throughout the stream. What a big bird. You can clearly see the elevators moving up, pushing the tail of the plane down as they rotate to take off. Now visibility is good. There are a few high clouds in the distance, but as you can read in the ticker, the weather, no significant weather, CAV okay, ceiling and visibility are okay, which means no obstruction by clouds in the lower layers of the air, which are most critical for departures and takeoffs, of course. First and the last part of flight is the most dangerous and is when most of the accidents happen. This plane headed out to North America. It's going to make a left-hand turn shortly. Let me center the plane. And now it's approximately over the North Sea Canal. And now it's turning west to the North Sea, which it will cross over to the United Kingdom, depending said it before yesterday, depending on where the North Atlantic tracks are today, which depends on the prevailing jet stream. They enter a predefined track. ATC cannot follow the planes or instruct them when they're over the ocean, so pre-planned routes are published daily to cross the Atlantic in both directions, and typically they enter such a track somewhere between Ireland and Scotland. Turning around the camera towards the main platform area, there is a plane coming. No, that's the wrong direction. There we go. It's an Embraer. And for now, that's the only plane. If I zoom out, you guys can see the weather. There are some high clouds. There are some patches of blue sky. And you can see the water is like a mirror. Day and night difference compared with yesterday. No need to raise my voice. Quite calm. So, coming this way is KLM flight 1533, and that's going to Darlington. It's an Embraer 175, and this is a 5-year-old plane. Was delivered in January 2018, and behind it, can we see it yet? I was misdirecting the camera. This would be EasyJet flight 2188 now, no, 21832, going to Manchester. That's an Airbus A320-200. 7 years old, was delivered in March 2015. Meanwhile, the Embraer is almost near the threshold, so let me turn around the camera to the right so we can see it take off. There it is. It's a bit hazy, as you can see, which creates a nice atmosphere, I have to say. So much easier to follow the planes when the wind is not constantly blowing towards your arm, on your arm and on your camera and tripod. Schiphol Scarecrow, we saw it pass just now, making its way back. When I was setting up, it was shooting off some fireworks. Although I have to say, don't see much. I haven't seen many birds yet. Nothing that needed chasing away, at least. Firefighters also made their round already as I was setting up. unfortunately, so I didn't have the chance to film them for you guys. Maybe we're lucky and they'll do another round later today, but we'll have to see. Meanwhile, the sun is coming out more and more. Hopefully that doesn't affect the image quality. The sun is now shining into our faces, so there is some backlight potentially. I think this looks good from what I can tell. The other side of the runway also is good, so it's mainly when you look at the main platform area that backlight issues might happen. Meanwhile, the Schiphol Scarecrow K5 is passing by. On guard 24/7. Making sure that no bird strikes take place. Scaring away all the birds that flock around the Schiphol area, which is a very attractive area for birds to flock to. As I was saying yesterday, and you guys can probably see it, there's grassland all over. Polderbaan is the latest addition to the runway network, if you will, of Schiphol. There always used to be 4 big runways, and then the Schiphol Oostbaan runway 22, minus 18, runway 0422, the still early. That's the small runway that is over at the east side of the main platform area. Those were the 5 runways that are the oldest. Polderbaan is the newest addition. And has been in use since 2003. Now if you look on the map, if you're not familiar with the topography, the layout of Schiphol Airport, it's the westernmost north-south oriented runway. And you can see it basically is surrounded by grassland and farms and farmland. It's in between Amsterdam and the city of Haarlem, and a natural habitat for a lot of birds, and that's of course something you don't want around when there's also airplanes taking off and landing. Meanwhile, another KLM 737 taking off. There's always a jitter in my mount, my tripod, whenever I want to tilt, make a vertical movement and you get a sudden jump. I try to attenuate it, but it's hard to do that. Too bad it's a relatively new mount and I don't want to break it, but I'm very tempted to make it open, see if I can re-lube it, make it more smooth. So we'll have to wait for the next plane to arrive. I think most likely it's going to be an Embraer from KLM to Aarhus, an Embraer 195 that now seems to be taxiing towards this runway. It's still at the main platform area. Martin, good morning, goedemorgen, and welcome everybody else who has tuned in the meantime. Welcome to AMS Live. My name is Boy. We're standing alongside the Polderbaan, runway 36 left. Same location as yesterday, but day and night difference in terms of weather. The sun is out, there's no wind, which is good in terms of you guys hearing me and the planes better than yesterday, but the downside is that when the wind is not very strong and from one particular direction, Schiphol can opt to use several runways, both for landings and for departures, and at the moment, 2 runways are in use, unfortunately, for takeoffs. Polderbaan, 36 left, where we are currently standing at, but also runway 09, the Buitenvelderbaan, which we were standing at last week when the runway was used for the opposite direction for landings as runway 27. Mike, good morning from Hoogezand. Nice of you to tune in. So the next plane, we can see it in the distance. It is coming this way, and it is indeed KLM flight 1465, the Embraer 195 E2 going to Aarhus. That's in Denmark. It's a flight of 585 kilometers. Now, I don't know exactly how many miles that is. I think approximately 300 or so. The plane that we see taxiing towards us, it's new. It's 1 year old, was delivered in February 2021. And if we look at flight radar, we have some time to look further into it. It's also interesting to look at the schedules of airplanes. If you look at the registration, you can see that now this flight is going to Aarhus in Denmark and then will return later today back to Amsterdam, after which this plane will become flight 1815 and go to Katowice, which is in Poland, and will also fly back again. And then it will also fly to Krakow in Poland as well. That's flight KL 1999 at 9 o'clock local time tonight. So that's 6, because this is not the first flight of this airplane. It came back from Aberdeen earlier this morning. And this is the second leg of today's schedule for this airplane. So these planes constantly in use. We can also see on flight radar that Delta Airlines flight 47 to JFK, that's an Airbus A330-300, is also coming 300 is also coming this way. Let me lay away my phone and go back to the camera so we can also see the Embraer taxiing towards the threshold. There it is, with the hazy backdrop bird in the foreground. You can probably also hear the bird chatter. I have to say, despite being in my winter coat, it feels very much like spring at the moment. Absolutely day and night difference with yesterday. Just listen how quiet that airplane is. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it was also a derated takeoff. So typically, to save the engines, they don't take off at full thrust. So that's called a derated takeoff. There are several degrees of deratedness, so to speak, depending on the weight, etc. They all input that in the flight management computer before leaving, and the computer will tell them what's the most optimal setting. I have to say it's getting warm with no wind and the sun out. Might have to take off my jacket if it doesn't cool down a bit. I'm wearing this very warm winter parka that is ensuring you to stay warm even if it's windy and wet. But when it's like now, the sun is out, there's hardly any wind, it can get hot quite quickly. So, coming this way, and goedemorgen Thijs from Utrecht, also tuning in. Good morning to you too. What we see taxiing now is Delta Flight 47 to New York JFK, Delta Airlines. It's a 15-year-old plane, was delivered in July 2007. We'll have to wait and see what comes next. Planes are on the move. But as I was saying before, because there's hardly any wind, there is a choice of runways to open for Schiphol, and unfortunately that resulted in 09 now also being in use for departures. Now, you have to know that because Schiphol and the western part of the Netherlands is very densely populated, Schiphol has a lot of noise abatement rules that the pilots need to take into consideration, and also Schiphol need to take into consideration, which means that they have a preferential runway system. And Polderbaan, the runway we are currently standing at, as well as the Kaagbaan, that is runway 0624, those are the two preferential runways. So if possible, they try to use those as much as possible, which means that 0927 can be used, and the Schiphol Oostbaan can also sometimes be used, particularly when it's windy. But because, for instance, landings on the Schiphol Oostbaan, to do that, planes have to fly directly over the Amsterdam city center, which of course is nice if you're a passenger on board. You can see the city from above. But every time that runway configuration is being used, you can count on it that a lot of inhabitants are complaining about noise. And that's why, if possible, Schiphol will open or use Polderbaan and Kaagbaan the most. So 09 is in use, but I'm thinking that this is going to stay the main departure runway for today. There's that sudden jump again that I was saying, that I was mentioning earlier. Now there are a couple of standard instrument departures for each runway, of course, and for polderbound departures, most are comprised of a climb into the north in the direction of the runway, and then when they reach the North Sea Canal, they typically start making their turn towards their final destination, or at least somewhat into that direction. So for westbound planes, they typically climb and head straight north, head straight out, then make a left-hand turn as soon as they reach the North Sea Canal. So you'll see this plane turn to the left in a moment, because and if you look on Google Maps, for instance, you can look with me as I'm saying this water, this stream that is also connected to Amsterdam and also to the IJsselmeer, or at least the former IJsselmeer. I think that part is now called Markermeer, but don't hold me accountable for when it's wrong. My topography is not what it used to be, and the camera is struggling somewhat, but there it is. So it will now go towards the United Kingdom, this plane. Will basically go over the North Sea, and depending on where it's going to enter the North Atlantic tracks, it will head out either more northerly into the direction of Scotland, or stay more westbound towards Ireland. Check it out. Mike also giving us some useful background information. Thank you for that. And good morning, Kenan. Welcome all other people as well. Thanks for tuning in to AMS Live. It's Monday, February 6th. We are standing at the Polderbaan, where weather is calm, the sun is out, lovely day. We're waiting for the next plane to come this way, and by the looks of it, it's going to be KLM flight 753, which is going to Quito in Ecuador. It's Boeing 777-200ER. And I think, yeah, it's that tail you see on the left side of the screen, and it's now making a left-hand turn to cross runway 18 center or 36 center, and then make its way over to this area. You can now see it coming this way, and it will get closer and closer. So this plane is 16 years old. The 777 to Quito that is coming this way was delivered in February 2006. And last few days it has been flying back and forth to South America. You can also see that Delta Airlines flight 143, that's an Airbus A330neo, is also on the move. That's going to go to Seattle. So those are all westbound destinations. I'm pretty sure that that plane is also going to come this way and take off from the Polderbaan eventually. We'll have to wait a bit. First up, the 777 to Quito. There are several heavies active on the platform area, the main platform area, if I'm looking at flight radar. Notably, and we saw it yesterday as well, a Boeing 767 from United. Now, United did operate a lot of 767s to Schiphol until recently. Most of them have been replaced by Dreamliners in the meantime. Also noteworthy, but I'm not sure yet if that's actual movement or not. Singapore Airlines flight 323. That's an Airbus A350-900. But if 09 is still open, that one is probably not going to go this way. And by the looks of it, 09 is still in use, unfortunately for us. Keenan asking why it's so foggy. Well, that's just typical for the time of year. If you remember yesterday, you could see that particularly in the early hours of the stream, when the planes were rotating, the runway was also still damp and wet. We had rain, of course, but also there's always moisture in the air, and that condensates when it gets cold during night and evaporates again when the sun is out during the day. Last night it was just above freezing, so if you opened the curtains this morning after waking up, you could see that there was moisture on all the cars as well. And the same thing here, the grass is also wet, and now with the sun out, that of course is evaporating, and that can cause some haziness. Typical for this time of year. As the days lengthen, you will see it less, and yeah, so that. Again, if you compare the water with yesterday, difference of day and night, and very much spring-like at the moment. Also some condensation over the air, over the wings during rotation, as you guys can see. Don't know the exact physical explanation for it. It has to do with air pressure and condensation of water vapor that's in the air. Similar to when sometimes the engines spool up, you can also see clouds just before the front of the engine. I know it has to do with low pressure. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've had physics in class in high school. It has to do something with, it has something to do with air pressure and water vapor and condensation, but I do hear some fireworks now in the distance. Trying to see if I can find the Schiphol Scarecrow on the ground. This is the main spotting place, by the way, so we're standing a bit more towards the beginning of the runway. Looking for the yellow vehicle of the kivets, of the bird controllers, but is it over there? No, that's a sign by the looks of it. Well, it might be behind these boxes, whatever they are. No. Oh, there it is. There it is. Found you. So in the meantime, the next plane is taxiing over here, and I can see another plane in the distance. So let's turn around the camera and see. Here we have a little Airbus, and further back, 3 planes by the looks of it. There might be even more underway because I also saw a tail over here just now in the background that might turn around, come this way. So before it's oh yeah, I can see it's getting a bit more busy. So let's quickly have a look and see what's coming. The EasyJet Airbus A319 here in the foreground is going to London Luton. That's a 14-year-old plane. And in the queue coming this way, we have 3 planes. First up, Delta 143 to Seattle. That's a newish 2-year-old A330neo. The TUI 737-800 is going to Groningen. That's a relocation flight most likely. And then there's also an Air Baltic Airbus A220 to Tallinn underway, and that's a 4-year-old plane. Now it seems that more is underway, so let me also have a look, see if 09 is still open. Apparently it still is, at least according to the app I'm using. So, a lot of planes underway, and quickly turn around the camera because at the threshold, the EasyJet A319. So let me quickly turn around the camera. Don't want to miss the action taking place around us. It seems that this a Boeing 737 is coming and will take off before the A330. This is the relocation flight. It's only a few miles more or less. It's going to be an empty airplane, so expect a quick rotation. Oh, and it's probably going to rotate behind these boxes. Oh, okay. Well, look at the runway length it's using for such a short flight. Surely a very D-rated takeoff then, with low thrust settings. So, let's turn around the camera. The A330neo is already lined up. And it's probably not going to wait for much longer to start taking off. There we go. Again, condensation over the top end of the wings. Oh, is it? Oh, there's a low cloud. Just this one cloud in the foreground. That's blocking the view somewhat, as you can see. Well, let's turn around the camera. The next plane is also ready to take off. We'll have to wait just a minute. Meanwhile, I'm quickly having a look at flight radar, and I can see that the 767 is also taxiing this way. That's good to stick around for. We don't see them that often anymore, especially not over here at Schiphol. So this is the Air Baltic A220 Tallinn. And apparently some special livery. I haven't seen that one before on the stream. And the next one is already taking off. It's back to back at the moment. A little Airbus from British Airways. Meanwhile, a 737 is lining up at the threshold. An Embraer is coming, and this is the 767 that is outbound for New York. Now, this 767 United 71, it's a 24-year-old plane, and the 737 at the threshold, KLM flight 1127, is going to Copenhagen, Denmark. That's a 15-year-old plane. Let's quickly turn around the camera and see it take off. Now, let me turn around the camera. Here's the 767, almost at the threshold. At the threshold momentarily. Embraer. It's British Airways flight BA 8496, operated by BA City Flyer to London City. It's an Embraer 190. It's 10 years old, and it's taking off already. Now, let me turn around the camera quickly because the 767 is already lined up, and the Embraer will not be giving so much wake turbulence that it will have to wait for long. Underway to New York. Approximately 6-hour flight from Amsterdam. In the meantime, more traffic is underway. There's a 737 from KLM at the threshold. There's an Air Baltic A220 also coming this way. Let's quickly look at flight radar. This flight is going to London Heathrow. It's a 737-800, and it's a 24-year-old plane. It was delivered in January 1999. While the Air Baltic A220 following it is going to Riga and is only 1 year old, was delivered in September 2021. Hi, happy day. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to AMS Live. All other viewers who have meanwhile joined us, also a warm welcome to the stream. Welcome to the channel. Those of you who only just tuned in, we are standing alongside the Polderbaan, runway 36 left, where departures are taking place this morning. Now, there's a second runway in use at the moment, 09, because there isn't much wind. So they basically have a choice of which runways they want to use. And unfortunately for us, not all departing traffic will take off in front of us. Most will probably, as this is still the preferential runway. Particularly later this morning when more heavies to the west are taking off, I'm hoping we will be able to see most of them. Now, if you're liking what you're seeing, consider giving the stream a thumbs up. And if you want to help me reach more people like you who like content like this, please subscribe to the channel. You can also then switch on notifications so you get updates whenever I go live in the future. Particularly subscribing to the channel will help the algorithm to spread content like this to more people like you who also enjoy aviation streams. So thank you for that. Meanwhile, you can see this airplane is still heading straight out. Eventually it will turn to the right because the Baltic states lie to the northeast of the Netherlands. And in the meantime, one of the few clouds that we have in the foreground is blocking the view. Let me zoom out. You can see the sun is out, weather is calm, the wind is calm. There are a few clouds looking towards the west. This is where the North Sea is. In line with the runway is to the north. Now looking to the east and towards the southeast, you can see the main Schiphol platform area. We'll have to wait a little bit for the next plane to arrive. At the moment, flight radar is empty, but there are several planes on the move. The first one most likely to come this way is going to be KLM flight 1109, a Boeing 737 going to Stockholm. I can also see an SAS Airbus A320neo to Oslo, also coming this way by the looks of it. Now, unfortunately, the 777 to Johannesburg seems to be lining up at runway 09. I think that Delta 135 to Detroit will, however, come this way. That's an Airbus A330-300. It's looking like that one is going to come this way. We will have to see. There's other planes also on the move. There's an A330 from Delta 73. That's going to go to Atlanta. Most likely going to come this way. Now, unfortunately, another triple to Cape Town from KLM. I think that one will also be taking off from 09, unless, of course, they close the runway in the meantime. United 908 to Chicago. That's a 787-800 Dreamliner, or 7878, I should say. That's also very likely going to depart from this runway. Now, basically, the best we can hope for is that they are going to close 09 somewhere between now and the next few minutes, but I'm afraid we won't be that lucky because the wind is calm and, well, you can see in the middle is the main control tower. Over to the far left of the screen is the dedicated control tower of the Polderbaan. If you look at the map, you can see that this runway is very distant from the rest of the platform area. So planes taking off from this runway have a significant longer taxi Then if they leave the gate, I have to depart from 09. I was a bit distracted. I was hearing some fireworks being set off. The Schiphol Scarecrows to the left of me and also to the left of you in the screen. But oh yeah, I can see. I was looking for where the yellow vehicle was, but there it is. So apparently there was a flock of birds that they were chasing away. So you can see more planes are coming this way. There's already one almost at the threshold. Let me have a look. The one at the threshold is the one to Stockholm, flight 1109. That's a 22-year-old 737. Was delivered in July 2000. So let's quickly turn around the camera. The Schiphol Scarecrow is also in that area, probably first making the initial part of the runway clear of birds. You can also see that the Boeing is holding short. So the bird controller is probably first checking for birds before the 737 will continue its taxi. In the meantime, the next two planes to come this way are the SAS Flight 822 to Oslo. As I was saying before, that's a 5-year-old plane, was delivered in July 2017, and Delta Airlines Flight 135 to Detroit, the A330-300, is a 16-year-old plane, was delivered in December 2006. I can also see an A319 from EasyJet and a CRJ from SAS also coming this way. But first, the 737, now on the threshold, going to make a rolling start probably. All right, let me turn around the camera. The next plane is already at the threshold. It's the Neo from SAS to Oslo. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think those Neos sound great. It's just like a little GE90. If you close your eyes, you'd almost believe a 777 was taking off. And now it's not in the clouds, but clouds are blocking our view. So let's quickly turn around the camera to the threshold. The next plane is lining up. Hey, I have to close the app. Flight radar doesn't show any airplanes. That's of course not right. Okay. Is that just me? It does show airplanes, but not in the vicinity, let alone at the threshold. But I do see planes on the main platform area. Huh. Okay. Is that just me? Because I could see those planes. Also the CRJ that is now ready to line up earlier. So maybe my app is just having difficulties. There's another A330. The CRJ is already rolling. Right, so looking to come this way as number one is this Embraer, which looks like it's going to take off right in front of us. And meanwhile, I'm having some trouble seeing those planes on flight radar. So, don't know what's up. Let's see the previous two planes. see the previous two planes as they had taken to the sky on flight radar, but on the ground I couldn't see them. This plane either. Oh. Let me look into that. Right, so the next A330 ready to spool. Oh, it's already spooling up. No time to waste. You can also see the vortex on the right wingtip. Also, something you see when also something that has to do with air pressure and with water vapor in the air. Okay, so another break for now. And what we saw depart was Delta 73 to Atlanta. For some reason, I had difficulty seeing the previous 3 or 4 planes on flight radar as they were on the ground before me. I think it was a glitch. I was seeing traffic on the main platform area, and I can also see a lot of movement right now. If I check the app that I'm using for actual current runway usage, I can see that Polderbaan is now the only runway in use. So if that's correct, that's good news for us, because that means that all outbound traffic will come this way and we will be able to see it take off before us. 2 runways in use now for landings, 36R and 06. So that's good news for us. There are a few heavies inbound. The first plane is an A319 coming this way. You can see it, Lufthansa to Frankfurt. It's an A319 flight 989, and it's a 25-year-old airplane. It was delivered in July 1997. And behind it is another A319, British Airways to London Gatwick. British Airways 2759, 18 years old, was delivered in January 2005. Then the Dreamliner Benjamin is also referring to. The Dreamliner to Chicago O'Hare 7878, United 908. 8-year-old plane that was delivered in June 2014. Now I can also see another Dreamliner to Madrid from Air Europa. A73 Max from Lot to what is it? Warsaw. So a lot of movement. Many more planes to come. So don't go anywhere, people. You can see them all zigzagging their way over here. The wind does seem to have picked up a little bit compared with the completely flat water we saw in the beginning. You can see a little bit of waves. They come toward us, so what wind there is. You can also see the wind sack over at the fire station. Wind is picking up a little bit, and you can see the direction. The wind is coming from the north somewhat. So that's good news, because that makes the polderbaan even more favorite to use for departures because of the headwind you will be facing then. So, turning around the camera, the next plane is ready to go any minute. Quickly airborne. The first of the two A319s. This one is Lufthansa, and the next one is going to be British Airways. Meanwhile, the United Dreamliner is also nearby. There it is. Gradually moving towards the runway threshold. This is the Air Europa Dreamliner. And a plane landing in the background on runway 06, as you can see, beautifully together in the same shot. Now let me quickly turn around the camera. The Dreamliner of United is already lined up. More is underway, the MAX and a few other smaller planes. Beautiful how those wings flex. They rise during the takeoff roll. They bend even more upward as the planes rotate. Wonderful to see. You can also see how the wings go down by when they land, when they raise speed brakes. You can see them basically flatten immediately. Very dynamic if you know where you need to look to. So this is the Air Europa Dreamliner to Madrid. Short flight. Let's see how long the takeoff is going to be. Still some runway length being used here. Meanwhile, it's getting more cloudy. I'm currently not standing in the sun anymore. It's getting a bit colder. In fact, I have started to wear my gloves again, but that's not saying a lot because I get cold hands as first sign when it's getting colder. So this is LL. No, it's LOT, sorry. LOT flight 266 to Warsaw. It's MAX 8, 1 year old, delivered in October 21. And after that is going to be a Vueling A320 to Bilbao. And that flight is 1153 kilometers, and the plane is 16 years old, May 2006. So that's the Vueling airplane. And then as number 3 we have another Neo, but we'll come to that shortly. Let's quickly turn around the camera. The next plane is already lined up. So that's the Vueling to Bilbao. The next plane is going to be an EasyJet plane, a Neo to Copenhagen. But again, no time to look at all the details. They're taking off back to back. Minimal time in between. Now, let me quickly turn around the camera because the Neo from EasyJet is also already lined up. In fact, it's already spooling up. So the next plane is already lined up. It's KLM Embraer. And it's also spooling up already. So that was a back-to-back battery of short-haul narrow-body flights. If I look towards the main platform, don't see any other planes coming just yet. So I'm wondering, have they opened 09 or did they never close it and was my app wrong? Oh no, I do see another plane coming. Let's have a look. It's an A330. Unmistakable. What's that on the left hand side coming over here? That looks like a triple. So, and there's another plane coming over here. I can also see very big engines. That is a Neo. Is it curved winglets? Seems like an A330 Neo. But why guess if you can also have a look at flight radar? So let me zoom out a little bit so you can see all the action. And that buys me some time to look at flight radar. So yeah, first up, an A330 from Delta Airlines, flight 57, going to Salt Lake City. The A330-300 to Salt Lake is 8 years old and was delivered in January 2015. And then Kalita Air, so it's not a Neo, an A330 Neo, but an A350. I did see the curved winglet, so it had to be either one of the two. Going to Taipei, China Airlines. And it's a 6-year-old plane. Then the Dreamliner I saw. No? I need some coffee, people, sorry. The 777-200 is United 21, going to Houston. It's 777-200ER, 24 years old, was delivered in September 1998. And then there's another small narrow-body jet from EasyJet coming this way to Prague, an A319, and that Airbus is 11 years old. First up, the A330 to Salt Lake City, Delta Airlines, flight 57. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, if you're liking what you're seeing, please give the stream a thumbs up. If you want to help me reach more people like you who like content like this, then please subscribe to the channel. Help the algorithm promote this content to more people that like aviation streams like you and I do. When you subscribe, you can also turn on notifications, which means that you will get a notification whenever I go live in the future. And here, it's pulling up the A330 to Salt Lake City from Delta. Now I'm going to turn around the camera because the China Airlines A350 is close to the threshold. No time to waste. The triple is already lined up at the threshold. Andy, good morning to you. Andy and Barbara watching from Northeast England. Well, welcome to YouTube. Welcome to the stream. Man, oh man, that roar. Second to none, isn't it? If you guys know an engine that makes a better sound than the General Electric GE90s, please let me know in the chat, because I'd like to know. Now, for those of you just tuning in, welcome to AMS Live. My name is Boy. We are currently standing alongside runway 36 left. At the moment, the only runway in use for departures. It's a day and night difference with yesterday when we were also standing at this same location. Back yesterday, it was quite windy. Now, not completely wind still, but it is much calmer. The sun is out, as you guys can see, although it is getting a bit more clouded than it was at the beginning of the stream. No precipitation has been predicted. It's currently 5 or so degrees centigrade, so that's 40-ish, yeah, 40-ish Fahrenheit. Because there isn't a lot of wind, 09 has also been used for takeoffs on and off this morning. Because the wind isn't very pronounced today, you can see the windmills in the background also moving either slowly or standing still. Means that Schiphol can also open other runways if they feel like doing so. Now the runway that we are standing at, the Polderbaan 36 left, is one of the two preferential runways. The other one being the Kaagbaan, which is 0624. That is now used for landings on and off together with 36 left. So converging arrivals. Earlier 09 was open. When I checked the app I'm using for runway usage not too long ago, it was saying that only this runway is now in use. There you can see the windsec. Day and night difference with yesterday. Meanwhile, a Ryanair 737 is going to appear from the left. It's a 737-800 going to Dublin in Ireland, and it's 13 years old. It was delivered in October 2009. We'll have to see what comes after that. There's nothing in the vicinity after this plane just yet, which is not to say that there won't be any more traffic upcoming. Looking at the app that I'm using for current runway usage of Schiphol, 09 is still closed. This is still the only runway in use for departures. So that's something we know for sure. Now you can see there are a few clouds in the distance. Not sure if this plane is going to disappear into it or if it's further away. This plane going to Dublin will make a left-hand turn. Eventually it's now flying towards the north. It needs to go to the west, so it needs to turn 90 degrees to the left, which it will do in a minute. But it's now vanished into the clouds, unfortunately. So we won't be able to witness that. There's nothing to see if I look at the main platform area coming this way just yet. I did spot, but I think it's already, yeah, gone. There was a landing plane on 06. And there's some movement in the distance. Undoubtedly. It's a Delta A330. And we see an SAS on the move. And another KLM. Triple by the looks of it. So if I look at flight radar, the first plane coming this way is Delta Airlines 259. It's another A330-300. It's going to go to Boston. And it's a 7-year-old plane from October 2015. And then SAS flight 556 to Stockholm is going to taxi this way. It's an A320neo, 3 years old, delivered in December 2019. Then you saw it just now, Finnair, an A321 going to Helsinki, back to Finland. That's a 5-year-old plane, was delivered in March 2017. There's also an EasyJet A319 coming this way by the looks of it, going to Nice in France, La France. That's 14 years old. And there is another A330 to Kuwait City. And there's also KLM flight 757 to Panama City alive. That's a Dreamliner 787-10, the biggest of the bunch. So that's probably also going to come this way, unless of course they open up runway 09 in the meantime. Then the Kuwait bound plane will definitely take off from the runway facing the east. Miraculous Star asking when will the A320-251neo coming? Which one are you referring to? Because there is one on the way already. If you mean the SAS to Stockholm, that should be behind the A330 according to flight radar. So that should be it in the middle of the screen. Meanwhile, the sun is coming out again. So that's the A330 to Boston. And that's the Neo to Stockholm and over to the left. The Finnair A321 to Helsinki. Quickly take a sip of water, put on my gloves because I can see that the Neo is cutting the line and is coming towards me on the right hand side, just out of view. You can see the landing lights, or the takeoff lights I should say, are already on, so it's probably going to make a rolling start right in front of us immediately. Just so quiet, those planes. Incredible. Oh. Meanwhile, behind me I can hear the A330. So let me turn around the camera. It's already spooling up. So the Finnair A321 to Helsinki is also lined up. Let me quickly turn around the camera so that we can see it take off as well. To the left. Hello, Goosey. Good morning to you too. Right here, South Coast England. Well, you can see the weather is not too different here in the Netherlands. The weather is calm, the sun is out, although it is a bit cloudy every now and then. Day and night difference compared with yesterday in terms of the wind. High pressure all over Europe at the moment. So I think for the upcoming week, throughout most of Europe, the same weather is predicted. Really a tremendous difference in volume. Those older A320s, A321s, if you compare them with the Neos, the one taking off before it, so much more quiet. As somebody who lives around Schiphol, I would be happy with that. As an airplane enthusiast, not necessarily, but it is also not. It's not only the volume, of course, but it's also the sound itself that makes or breaks if you like a sound or not. The next Airbus is already moving. EasyJet. Rotating behind the blocks. Gear up. Alright. Let's turn around the camera. There's another big bird. Things were moving so quickly I didn't have the time to look at flight radar. It's an A330 from KLM. Let's quickly have a look. Yeah, this is the one to Kuwait City. Okay, so that's good. Hey Marijn, also informing us. Good morning. And all other people who have just joined us. Welcome to AMS Live, here alongside the Polderbaan for more departures. This time with much quieter wind. The weather is calm, there are some clouds, the sun is out. I think it's now approximately 5 degrees centigrade, so that's approximately 40 Fahrenheit if I'm not mistaken. Now, why is the gear still down? And why is there a cloud? Is something wrong with this plane? Are they calling an emergency? Do they have a malfunction with the landing gear? It's still flying with the gear lowered. Unfortunately, I'm zoomed in maximally right now. If anybody is listening to ATC, if something is happening, if there's an emergency or something, please let us know. I, for one, am very curious to see why this plane is still with the gear down. It is making a right-hand turn, and that's about as far as I can follow it. Planning to go to Kuwait, so that's not out of the ordinary, but having the gear down is yeah, no, it's too clouded. I'm not able to follow it as it moves. If as it is returning towards Schiphol, but in the distance, if that's the departure it's going to take. So yeah, curious to hear if anybody knows what's with the A330 that we saw taking off. It's also still at only 2,225 feet if I look at flight radar. So are they calling an emergency? Are they having any technical difficulties? Unfortunately, if it's going to land, it will be landing on one of the other runways most likely. Definitely not likely that it's going to return to this runway. It has continued climbing. Yeah, it's resuming its climb now, so okay, so the A330 that we saw depart and still had its landing gear down. Yeah, exactly, cooling the brakes. I've seen it before. Yeah, the turn that it's making is probably just the departure, the standard instrument departure it's taking. I've seen it before that they needed to cool the brakes. In fact, I thought, thinking back to it, I think it also was an Airbus A330 where I saw that happen once. But it also looked like it was stopping its climb. That's why I was curious. Nu boven Purmerend, above Purmerend, yeah. And it's continuing its climb. It's not going to do that if there was something wrong. Also, the speed is increasing, so I'm sure they just needed to cool the brakes. Meanwhile, the next plane is taxiing towards us. Let me zoom in again so that I can give you some background information. Two planes making their way over here. The first one on the left is British Airways flight 431 to London Heathrow. It's an Airbus A319, and that is a 22-year-old plane. Was delivered in May 2000. Behind it, and for you guys on the right of the two, just in line with the tower at the moment, is KLM flight 757 to Panama City, and that's the Dreamliner 78710. 2 years old, that plane, delivered in May 2020. Now I do also see another Embraer lining up at 09, so apparently it seems that they have opened 09 again for departures. Checking the app, it confirms it, so we'll have to see. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, guys, if you're liking the stream, please give it a thumbs up if you haven't done so already, and please help me reach more people like you and me who like content like this as well. by subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. By subscribing, you can also turn on notifications, so whenever I go live, you will get a notification and won't miss it and have to look at it later. Ina, good morning. Good to have you back. So, the British Airways A319 to London Heathrow. You can see takeoff lights are on already. It's going to depart in front of us. And it's pulling up, so it's making a rolling start. On its way to London Heathrow. One of the many planes departing for London Heathrow. It's probably the busiest route between Amsterdam and London Heathrow. Not sure, but if it's not the busiest, then it's definitely one of the most busy flown routes between the two cities. I'm thinking it might be even the busiest. Now you can see a little bit of the vortices that are created from the wings. You need to be lucky. We could see them curl up just a little bit. It's always a lovely sight. But let's turn around the camera because the Dreamliner 78710 is already at the threshold waiting to go. KLM flight 757. Now next up, an Embraer. It's already lined up. Still waiting for clearance from the tower. It's going to fly to Aberdeen. KLM flight 1445. It's an Embraer 190 and it was delivered in January 2012, so it's 11 years old. More planes are on the move at the platform. Don't see them in the vicinity just yet. But there's definitely more underway. So much I could tell. Meanwhile, the sun is coming out again, which is good for the perceived temperature. Made a big difference in terms of how warm it feels. You can see the water in the foreground is once again flat, like a mirror. Completely different from yesterday, when it was very wavy. Wind overnight almost completely vanished. And we're waiting for the next planes to come this way. There is something in the distance moving this way. Didn't have a chance to look at flight radar yet. I'm going to do that right now, but it looked like an EasyJet A320. And it certainly was an A330, A319 that I was seeing to Edinburgh from EasyJet. Meanwhile, you might hear alarms going off in the distance. It's now 12 o'clock and it's the first Monday of the new month. That's always when the alarm is tested out loud. So we are not under attack by a foreign nation. It's just testing of the air alarms. So the EasyJet that we see taxiing over here is going to fly to Edinburgh. It's 14 years old, was delivered in 2008. And there's A330 Neo from Delta, also on the move by the looks of it, to JFK. I can also see a Boeing 747 from Singapore Airlines Cargo to Sharjah. Now, fingers crossed that those planes are going to come this way and not take off from 09 or another runway. A lot of narrow body planes also on the move on the platform. Nothing coming just yet, so let's turn around the camera towards the A319 from EasyJet, which is almost at the threshold. Lights are on. spool up any minute. It's a quiet day so far. As I was saying before, when I was setting up, the patrol of the 3 firefighter trucks was already on the move, so I wasn't able to film them as I was earlier this week. Last week, I should say. Schiphol Scarecrows, well, we've seen them patrol, and I did hear some fireworks earlier, but not a lot of birds over here, so they also don't have a lot of work to do on this side of the airport area. Meanwhile, we are waiting for the A330 Neo to JFK, visible on the right hand side, slowly making its way over here. We'll have to see what comes next. '09 is still used for departures. Now, the 747 is standing still, so don't expect that to come anywhere close anytime soon. And the rest, what I can see, are Embraers, A320s, 737s. Photo for you asking what's with the white balance. Seems a bit yellow-green. Well, I switched it. I think I switched it to daylight today. Can also go back to auto white balance. That's probably a bit more bluish. Probably more natural. So the white balance for daylight apparently is a bit warm. So here's the Neo from Delta to JFK, slowly making its way over here. What comes next remains to be seen. A lot of activity, but no planes in the vicinity just yet, other than this Airbus A330 Neo. very quiet. You can hardly hear it. And into the clouds it goes. Right. I think that's probably the next plane coming over. Let's have a look. I think that might be the case. KLM Embraer 190 going to Bergen in Norway. It's almost straight out. After leaving the runway, they don't have to turn left or right. If you look at where Bergen is, they can basically follow the heading, the runway heading more or less. Okay, well, the good news is that the 747 from Singapore Airlines Cargo is taxiing by the looks of it. But it's going to Sharjah, and that's in the Middle East. And that makes departure from 09, when it's open, very likely. So fingers crossed that the 747 is going to come this way. I can also see a 777 from KLM with destination Nairobi active on the platform. That is also a destination that makes a departure from 09 more likely, in my opinion. And unfortunately, by the looks of it, the runway is still open. So we will have to wait and see. That's the downside of having two runways in use, and the downside of having so little wind. Now, surprisingly, because there's hardly any traffic at the moment from the runway, and this is also an airplane that's going to fly to a not too distant destination. Still typical that they are taxiing towards the beginning of the runway instead of the entry where we are standing at. Okay, still quite a lengthy takeoff. So yeah, this plane basically only has to climb and fly straight towards Bergen, which is more or less dead ahead. Let's have a look around towards the main platform area. Don't see anything coming just yet. What's that? That's the 747. Now, soon we will learn what it's going to do, but if flight radar is correct, then it's going to take off from 09. That would be very unlucky for us. No queens, other than in the distance. So yeah, Singapore Airlines is probably taking off from 09 by the looks of it. Now, a lot of small planes are on the move. Marijn informing us that the next one might be the Delta to Portland. Well, that's definitely a likely candidate to fly from this runway, that's for sure. I'm curious to see what the Embraers from KLM are doing to Munich, to Copenhagen, and to Cork. The one to Cork is most likely going to come this way. The one to Munich seems to be going to 09. Well, Copenhagen, you can choose either runway. Also a city hopper to Inverness on the move. Inverness, Scotland. Ryan and John mentioning, and Photo for You mentioning the A380. When it's exactly overhead, as was the case just now, it's hard for me to focus the camera on it. My camera cannot tilt exactly 90 degrees. We are able to see it in a few minutes from the distance. I can show you with one of the planes that I see at the moment. Landing planes on 06 you can follow from over here, but only in the far, far distance. So when the A380 Super is going to land on 06, we will be able to follow it like so. And approximately until here. Meanwhile, I can see another plane taxiing towards the area we are at, as Marijn is also informing us about. So the Copenhagen and Cork and Inverness Embraers from KLM are coming this way. That's good. That's good. Here they are on the move. Meanwhile, I'm also looking to the right to see if I'm able to spot the silhouette of the A380 on final for 06. And it's pulling up already. Right, let's turn around the camera. The next one is also spooling up. Quickly turn around the camera towards the threshold. And if I look, I can also see the A380. Right, so that was the A380 Super landing on 06 in the distance. We missed an Embraer, but here's a spare one. There's no lack of Embraers. Meanwhile, the Delta A330 to Portland is in fact coming this way. The A330-300 Delta Airlines 179. Delta Airlines trip A330 being 17 years old, was delivered in July 2005, and the Embraer in the foreground is KLM flight 1345 from Amsterdam to Billund in Denmark, not too far away. Short flight, and that is a 13-year-old plane, was delivered in 2009. The Embraer making its way over here and very likely to depart right in front of us. Now you can see in the distance the windmills, hardly any movement. Look at yesterday's stream, whenever the camera was pointed that way, they were almost spiraling out of control. So yeah, the weather has its pluses and its minuses. Unfortunately, one big minus is that not all traffic is going to come over here, and also taking off from 09. But the sound is much better when there isn't any wind. So the A330 to Portland is what we see over here. Merijn, thank you so much for keeping us updated, informing us that Turkish Airlines special livery pushing back. So let's hope it's going to come this way. If it's going to Istanbul or something like that, you might have a chance it's going to take off from 09 and we won't be able to see it other than perhaps in the distance. Unless, in the meantime, 09 will be closed down again. Which of course I'm hoping it will, but realistically it saves the planes a big taxi, not having to go almost to the city of Haarlem, starting out from more or less Amsterdam. Meanwhile the sun is coming out again, nice and warm. Really feels like early spring, like so, like this. They make such a nice rumble, the engines of the A330, 300 that is. You can see at the right wingtip some vortices. You can even see it here on my little camera screen in the shadow of my head because the sun is shining from behind, making it a bit hard to see everything. Right, back towards the main platform area. I think that's an A350. That's probably the one to Hong Kong being pushed back. Cathay Pacific, flight 270. Now, yeah, okay, Marijn, you're right. Closer to Hoofddorp than Haarlem. Metaphorically speaking. Yeah, Turkish to Istanbul. If 09 is still open, it's most likely going to go take off from there. By the looks of it, both runways are still open for departures. Let's wait and see what the A350 is going to do. Can we still see it, by the way? There it is. The upside of where the Cathay Pacific 350 is that we'll learn soon enough if it's going to take off from 09 or 36 left. And I can see the triple from Emirates Cargo as well. Marijn, thank you for the heads up. Is it on the move? It's going to go to Dubai. So that too, the destination. And there is the A380 in the distance. So we'll learn soon enough if the Cathay Pacific 350 is going to taxi to us or to the threshold of 09. I'm a bit afraid that it's going to be the latter. Meanwhile, it's the Emirates Super almost at the gate. Now it's going to stay there for at least 3 or so hours. And typically, I think it was between 3 and 3:30 local time in the afternoon, PM, that the return flight takes off. As the days get longer, I also intend to go stream later during the day at a later stage. There's a very busy rush hour for inbound traffic, typically around dinner time over here. Of course, you need daylight long enough to be able to film that properly. That's definitely something I look forward to try and show you guys, because particularly when now, as you may or may not know, runway 18 center, runway 36 center, that's the middle of the north-south runways, is closed until somewhere in April, or at least that's what they are now predicting for major maintenance. But normally when it's open and landings take place in southern direction, you typically can see parallel landings, and particularly during the rush hour, when you're standing over here, you can see basically all the planes in the distance if the sky is clear. Also, you can visually see the glide slope as they descend towards the runway for both runways, so that's nice to see. Something to look forward to as the days gradually lengthen and lengthen. Now, United, the 777, sorry, United, I see UA, I'm thinking United Airlines, but Emirates Sky Cargo doesn't seem to be moving, so not sure yet what that's going to do. There is an A320 from Iberia to Madrid that seems to have passed the runway threshold of 09, so that might be coming this way. I think it is, so that's probably going to be the first plane to appear. Maybe we will be able to see it even showing in the left, although I'm not sure, but I think we might see it. Or has it passed already? It will show its face eventually. Now, what the Cathay Pacific A350 is going to do is most interesting. I'm checking the app that specifies the active runways, and 09 appears to be still in use. The A320 from Iberia to Madrid is coming this way. Definitely has passed the runway threshold of 09. So that's an A320-200. 17 years old. Was delivered in January 2006. And that plane is on its third leg at the moment of the day. No, the second leg, I'm sorry. First from Madrid to Amsterdam, now from Amsterdam to Madrid. Later today it's going to fly from Madrid to Santiago. From Santiago back to Madrid. And also from Madrid to Paris. So quite a busy day for those planes. Miraculous Star informing us that most planes to Istanbul are cancelled today. Well, I woke up with the news of the earthquake, so I'm not surprised if things, if they have different priorities at the moment in that area of the world. Although I'm not sure to what degree Istanbul was affected. I haven't had time yet to look at the news in more detail. Now, we can see that the A350 from Cathay is on the move. So we'll find out soon enough if it's going to take off from 09 or if it's going to come this way. Meanwhile, coming in view from the right is the Iberia A320. Iberia flights 3723. As I was saying, it's a flight to Madrid. It's a 17-year-old plane delivered in January 2006. There we see it in its full glory. Lovely weather with the sun being out now. Wind picked up just a little bit, just a mild breeze. It is blowing from the north, but it's not so significant that they are likely to let all traffic depart from one specific runway. Yesterday, even for a moment, when the wind was blowing so hard from the north, they even opened runway 24 for departures. I did see when I was streaming a few planes taking off, and I was flabbergasted actually, because not only do you have a significant crosswind component, you were also having tailwind when taking off from the Polderbaan 36 left northbound. You were basically facing more or less headwind with just a minor crosswind component. So I was really astounded that they, and it was only briefly, so they probably realized as well that it wasn't very logical, but I was surprised to see that they opened that runway of all runways they could open as a secondary runway. Now, Madrid lies to the southwest of Amsterdam, so I'm guessing that this plane is going to make a left-hand turn, an almost 180 towards the southwest, sorry, and we'll start heading towards Spain, flying over the North Sea alongside the west coast of the Netherlands. So for this plane too, we'll hold that it's going to start the left-hand turn as soon as it's over the North Sea Canal that lies to the north of Schiphol and is connecting basically. Hey, so okay, there you go. You think it's going to take a left-hand turn, and as it vanishes into the clouds, it's making a right-hand turn. In that case, it's most likely going to make a 180, and we'll be heading south as it makes a turn. I will go down south, typically around the western part of the city of Amsterdam. I'm looking if I can see the plane appear again between the clouds in one of the blue patches of sky, but unfortunately I'm unable to. Oh yeah, there it is. Can I still see it? There it goes. Yeah, and now it's already behind the next cloud. Right. I can see a plane approaching in the distance. I haven't checked flight radar yet, but let me zoom in. Well, to me, that looks like an A350. I might be mistaken, but I think that's the A350. And there is the Emirates cargo. I might be mistaken, but it looks like they're also underway over here. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. Well, if you look at flight radar, Emerijn, thanks for updating us already. You guys already knew it before I had a look at my computer where I can see the chat. You have to imagine I'm standing here behind my tripod most of the time. I have a little table where my laptop and my power supply and my phone are lying down on. So every time I look to see your chats and look at flight radar, which I do on my mobile phone because the bitrate of my stream goes down once I use internet over my laptop because that's going to my wireless router, and the stream is also going over that feed. So I need to move up and down, back and forth between the camera and the laptop or flight radar respectively. So you guys were already informed by Marijn. Thanks for that once again. That heavies are inbound. The first of which, the A350 from Cathay Pacific to Hong Kong. That is a 5-year-old plane, was delivered in June 2017. Behind it is a Boeing 737-900 from KLM, flight 1075, going to Manchester. That's an 18-year-old plane. And here is the bigger overview for you guys. So, 737, 18 years old, to Manchester from KLM in the left side of the screen. And then the third plane will be the Embraer 170 from Air France Hop, going to Rennes, the daily flight. We've seen it before a lot of times. 13-year-old plane, delivered in July 2009. Then the 777 that we see is going to Lima. And that's KLM flight 743. It's a 777-200ER. And that's a 19-year-old plane. It was delivered in October 2003. Then the Emirates Sky Cargo to Dubai 777 freighter. That's a 10-year-old plane, delivered in November 2012. And behind it, Delta Airlines 163 from Amsterdam to Minneapolis. It's an A330-300. 17 years old, delivered in May 2005. And more is underway. You would almost start to wonder if... Yep. If the app I'm using for the current runway usage is correct, then this is the only runway in use at the moment for departures. And the first one is going to be the 737 that we see in front of us. It's going to take off before the A350. Meanwhile, I can hear the Air France hop. I think it's the Air France hop also skipping the line. So let me turn around the camera because it is already in front of me. Let's all wave to the pilots. You can almost see what they're doing. So back-to-back action, don't go anywhere, people. Off to Rennes, which I think is in the northwest of France. I think I even used to have French class in high school, and one of the books we used was based, the main characters were living in Rennes, I think, if I recall correctly, but that's a few decades ago, so might be mistaken. Meanwhile, the A350 is taking off, and I urge you to look in the background to see what's coming next. There's a triple. And another triple. Now folks, I know you guys like this shit, so if you haven't done so, press the like button, and also please help me reach more people like you for content like this. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Turn on notifications so you get notifications whenever I go live with streams like these. Here's the triple. A phenomenal sound. If you're saying, I want more, no problem. We've got you sorted. Emirates 777 cargo. Here's an encore. Sick of the tune? Want a different tune? No problem. How about an A330? Awesome, awesome, awesome. And you can see the previous plane in the background. What a wonderful shot. Both in the same shot. Right, in the meantime, the next plane is waiting for clearance. Of course, there's the wake turbulence that has to dissipate first, but it's the Ryanair 737. All right. Let me turn around the camera because there is a TUI Dreamliner almost lined up, entering the threshold. that's going to fly to Curaçao, Willemstad. It's a 7878 Dreamliner, 7 years old, delivered in March 2015. Hey Rick, good afternoon, welcome back, good to see you. Just in time for some heavies. Let's have a look, see what's coming next. Several planes, a Dreamliner, a little Embraer, and an Airbus. And let's see, well, the Embraer at the threshold is going to go to Stuttgart and is 13 years old. That's going to be number one. Let me turn around the camera because it's probably going to depart in a few seconds. The Dreamliner that you saw approaching is going to Philly, American 203, 787-800, like the TUI we saw depart just now. This plane 7 years old, and then we will see an Embraer 195, KLM flight 1929 to Geneva, a 1-year-old plane. Back to the camera. Now over to my right I can hear an airplane approach. Let me quickly turn around the camera. It's the Embraer 195 cutting the line before the American Dreamliner. Here, visible in all its magnificence. And another one of those planes approaching in the distance. Also, once they spool up, they make a wonderful noise. Alright, we have a queue. Dreamliner from America first taking off. But look to the left. can see. So, what is in the queue? 1, 2, 3, and this one. Another mega earthquake an hour ago. You don't say. Man. Is it another earthquake or is it an aftershock then? So folks, I think I'm going to stick around until the current queue is gone. Then wrap it up again for today. Let me have a look. Oh, there's another. Oh, there are 2 more Dreamliners coming. Of course there are. Oh dear. Yeah, there are 2 Dreamliners also coming this way. And you guys know by now, hopefully, that I'm also a sucker for heavies. I do wish to wrap up the stream at some point. But given that there's a queue and these 2 Dreamliners now approaching, we'll probably go behind in the line. So it's going to be back-to-back departures. Let's see. taking a considerable amount of runway. Now quickly moving back. The first of the Dreamliners that was approaching, Air Canada, making its way over. The queue now gone, with the last runway, the last plane of the queue on the runway. Another 777. No time to check all the details. I'm sorry for that. Triple 7-300. Best roar in the game, if you ask me. Now you can also hear the second Dreamliner of the two that were approaching. Let's go back to the threshold. The Air Canada is pulling up. Such a gentle, careful rotation and climb, initial climb. And here is the next Dreamliner. It is back-to-back action. This is flying to San Jose, 6 years old, 7879 KLM. Now folks, this is going to be it for me for today. Thank you all so much once again for tuning in. It's been a blast. If you guys liked this stream and you haven't done so already, please give it a thumbs up and help me reach more people like you who like content like this by subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Make sure when you do subscribe that you turn on notifications so that whenever I go live in the future, you will receive a update. For now, I'm going to wrap it up. I wish you all a very pleasant week. I hope to see you again around the end of the upcoming week. for the next 3 days I have other things to do, so I hope maybe on Friday or otherwise during the weekend I will be back with another stream for you guys. Thank you all so much. Take care, stay safe, and see you again soon. Bye for now.